First Watch Now.
What you need to know from the Cochise County Sheriff's Office.
Hosted by Cochise County Public Information Officers Carol Kappas and Grady Butler. First Watch on 92.3 KWCD.
And it's brought to you by Sulphur Springs Valley Electric Cooperative, giving you an inside look into your sheriff's office. I'm Grady Butler, and with me is Carol Kappas, Public Information Officer with the Sheriff's Office, and Sheriff Mark Daniels. Good morning.
Good morning, Cochise County. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year, and we're back. It's like we've been frozen in time. Literally, yes.
We were, yes. So up on the mountain over the past 2 weeks, so we took the week after Christmas off, but then the next 2 weeks it froze on the mountain. And as you remember, a year ago, the tower fell down. Well, now it's kind of up on a pole, so the situation wasn't good for anything cold, which knocked us off the air for 2 weeks in a row. But now we're back.
Yes, it's good to be back, and there's no way to notify people like when we get here, besides social media, of course, but to say, hey, we're not on. But I had so many people, hey, where were you? We were frozen in time, literally.
Also, we want to start the show by saying thank you to Sulphur Springs Valley Electric Cooperative. They have again sponsored this show for an entire year.
Yep, we're back for another year. So the ones that are saying, dang, I want my country music, but okay, you're back.
Yeah, we have an hour that we're going to steal from you, but thank you, SSVEC, for letting us do that.
Very much. Jason and the team over there, thank you so much. We appreciate you.
And so we've got a lot to catch up on. So let's start with catching up on, Christmas and New Year. Did everybody have a good Christmas and New Year?
It was very good. It was nice and calm. It really was. I mean, it was just a nice embracing. We did a lot of community events, as we talked about on the show leading up to Christmas. But it was just a nice, calm, well-embraced Christmas and New Year.
It was, and I think that, everybody getting together in the different communities, that was good to see.
It was, and the communities came together. And I got to give a shout-out to Huachuca City. I did their parade. We spent a lot of time in their parade. They go everywhere in their parade. They go down alleys, we go down streets. We were just all over Huachuca City, and people wave in the yards, But it was just nice seeing every community come together, and that's what makes it special. It really does.
And you put out a video at the end of the year, which is on our Facebook page and on YouTube, that kind of wrapped up 2023 for the Sheriff's Office.
Yeah, and let me give you a shout. Nice job, Grady, on that one. And let me just, people ask me, did you script that? No, I just spoke. And I can talk, as we all know. So I just talked, and then Grady edited it, and put it together with some videos. You did a nice job. I'm just going to say, a nice job. And we had another office ask, hey, can we borrow Grady? But we appreciate it. Now, if you haven't looked at the year-end video, please go do that. It's on YouTube, like Grady said. It's also on our social media sites. Take a look at it. It kind of wraps it up in a way that, we can all talk about what's not working, but this was talking about what is working. And granted, we talked about some challenges in it, but overall, a lot of successes, so please, I encourage you to look at that.
Some of the things that are not working right now are like CCOM radios and phones. And the county has had issues with phones. And I know I had to call in because I was trying to call in our main office, and I kept getting just weirdness, calls dropping, fast busies. At the same time, CCOM was having problems. So it seemed like it was just, county-wide. But then the radios went down last night, and it was difficult. So we appreciate everybody's patience, and thank you to all the people who work in CCOM, because I don't know how many have hair left after pulling it out yesterday, but Tammy Jo, you're doing a great job organizing all that.
Yeah, I was just going to say, I talked to Tammy Jo last night. She called me to give me an update. It's some challenging time. What's sad is when you can't control it at your level and you have to reach out to both private organizations. CenturyLink actually runs 911 in the state, so we're addressing that on their end. We're addressing some county infrastructure from what I've been told last night. Again, I'm not putting blame on this until we figure out the exact problem. Our biggest concern is to make sure we don't have an interruption of public safety service and 911. That's huge for us right now. We had that pursuit the other day, I know, and that was a huge problem in that pursuit. And that's when officer safety is a factor. It's also public safety concerns when they can't talk to us and we can't talk to them. So we have to get this fixed.
And speaking of pursuits, that one in particular, it was quite the wild ride.
It was, and I will talk about pursuits in a minute, but that specific pursuit, I mean, I know the Sheriff's Office, Service to PD, DPS, I think Border Patrol's involved now, Benson PD. I mean, it was, I think they spiked her 3 times, I know of, in a stolen car, and went down from South 92 all the way into Benson. Our deputies actually box the vehicle in. And that's not a practice that we do every day, but it was either that or let her get up on the interstate. She was running about 30, 40 miles an hour because she was down to one inflated tire. The rest were spiked or deflated, we call it. So once you hit that interstate at speeds of 75 to 80 miles an hour, those are deadly consequences. So the decision was made by leadership to box her in. Yeah, we got a damaged patrol car, but nobody got killed. Most important. But I got to give a shout out. Debbie, a business owner here in town, was hit by this driver. She called me. She was waiting for medics to arrive. And these are the consequences of people when they drive like this. And so Debbie, prayers are for you. Hope for a speedy recovery out there.
And backing that up just a little bit and not placing blame on anybody, but you really, really, really have to pay attention to what you're doing. The initial news reports are the vehicle owner started the vehicle to warm it up, went back inside, and then it's just crime of opportunity. You know, somebody's walking by and get in the car and then they take off.
Well, exactly. I mean, you got to harden the target, they call that. And that was a real soft target. And the fact that when you leave, and I see people do it all the time, they pull in a convenient, run in and get something to drink, but they leave their car running unlocked, their valuables are inside, lock your car, harden the target. I mean, let's face it. I mean, with all the smuggling going on in this county right now, you got people running through the brush. If they see that car, we're going to be chasing it soon afterwards. And let's harden that target and work together on that.
Monday was Martin Luther King Jr. Day.
It was, and let me give a big shout out to the NAACP. I went to their event over at the Rothery Center, and probably I don't think I've missed one. Maybe I missed maybe one, but I think I've been at all of them. My memory serves me right, but it was the best attended one we've had, or they've had, excuse me, for the community. And I want to give a big shout out to the guest speaker, Pastor Ken Richardson. He did an amazing job. He really did when it comes to dealing with the challenges we are in the society and our nation and globally, and really drew the crowd in on that one. So, but again, overall, nice event, and Dr. Martin Luther King, I mean, there's a reason we recognize him. Thank you.
And you were just busy with all kinds of other things, including attending a ceremony for General Applehans. Got a second star.
Got his second star. And, you know, talking to some folks on that and talking to the general and others, you know, a senator, I think it was a senator or congressional folk out of D.C., one person held up over 400 promotions. Mm-hmm. Now, I know there's a process and there's a system, but how can one individual hold the military up for 400 plus promotions? But he did, and he finally changed his mind, bless his heart. But so General Applehans got his second star. I went to the ceremony, very nice ceremony. You got to see General Barrier, who should be here, one of our generals, and he got his third star. And many of it's the best part of going to those ceremonies. You get to see the former generals. They get to come back here and present. General Barrier presented. And so it was a nice event, well attended by the community leadership. And so congratulations, General.
And it's nice when you can recognize people who've been in the business for such a long time, especially public safety, because it takes a special kind of person to do that. And, you know, I don't know how many people are retiring from this profession any longer, but Paul Main, 35 years from Arizona Department of Public Safety. So good job. You went to that event. I
did. Saturday night he had his retirement here in Sierra Vista, and Paul spent 35 years, young trooper. If you look at his photos from being young to where he is today, we transition. Law enforcement, I mean, it's a tough job, but it's amazing we all do it. Not just Paul, but we all do it. But, you know, Paul was one of those kind of guys that was well received at state, local, and federal, embraced by law enforcement, embraced by the community, worked in the undercover field for majority of his career, was a big partner with the sheriff's office. And but Paul, congratulations. I try to recruit him as a volunteer or do something with the sheriff's department. I'll get him. It's going to take me a little time, looks like, on this one, but I'll get him over here. But again, congratulations for your service, and thanks for being a friend of the sheriff's office and a friend of mine.
And while we're doing shout-outs, you have a very special birthday shout-out.
I do. Today is Shelley, which is my stepmom's birthday today, so I want to give her a happy birthday from all of us here at First Watch and the law enforcement, public safety. She's a big supporter of all of us, and so happy birthday. Love you.
And one of the things that's coming up, we talked about year-end stuff, and the Elks Club is having an event this weekend. And what we did for the year-end is we selected an Officer of the Year, so the Elks Club is going to do the same, and they're having a ceremony for a majority of law enforcement agencies in Cochise County for them to do this as well.
They are. So we want to give a big shout-out to the Elks here. As an Elks member here, they do it every year. They recognize law enforcement, and they pick a Law Enforcement Officer of the Year, and that recipient then goes to the state, compete at a state level. So our nominee is Dan Brennan, one of our deputies here. So that dinner will be Saturday night at the Elks, and I will be there, and we'll see how he does. He's a good deputy, but competition is tough because you got all the officers, all the agencies putting in for their nominee. So, but again, whether he's selected or not, he's our deputy of the year.
And continuing on shout-outs, Search and Rescue, they're a volunteer organization for the Sheriff's Office, and they're mandated, correct, for the Sheriff's Office to have a search and rescue team.
It's actually a constitutional mandate for me.
And so ours does an amazing job. They're always training. They're never languishing. I don't know that anybody in that group is lazy, and it pays off because their training helped them, again, have a successful rescue with a biker 2 days ago.
Yeah, we had a senior citizen that actually, from out of state, took his bike out of Charleston, and 11:30 in the morning, and it was supposed to be back by, I believe, 4, did not return. So our team was out there all night, Tombstone Marshal's office, sheriff's deputies, search and rescue. They found him at 2 in the morning. A little bumped up, a little roughed up based on the terrain, not based on a person. And but we located him. And it's cold at night. And so, again, kudos to Search and Rescue for leading that coordinated effort to find him and bring him back safe.
And right now, the academy is run, and it's in Sierra Vista starting this year. And I'm going to pop over there today and take some pictures and introduce our new recruits. So you're going to see that on Facebook, but the academy is in full swing.
It is full swing. I went over there the other day. There's 26 recruits from all over, from Graham County, Greenlee County, Safford PD, Santa Cruz County, Benson, Bisbee PD, of course our department, Sierra Vista PD, but 26 total, and they're it looked so fragile when I was there because they're so scared. So I said a few things to them. Welcome to the law enforcement. Welcome to be a community role model. Never forget that. But number 2 is I had them introduce themselves, and they're so timid right now. I said, you all got to come out of that shell. So long story short is I wish him well. I want to thank JD, the president of Cochise College, and Dr. Perry, and all the staff over there, Dr. Brooks, for being our partners for public safety here in Cochise County. And we're in our new digs over at the Sierra Vista campus now. They transferred us from Douglas to Sierra Vista. And if you see the building going up next to Cochise College, that's a grant that President Watler and his team got, and that is a new indoor firing range for the college that will be used for the academy. And there's some other stuff you're going to see go up over there too. But again, it's just advancing our needs here locally, homegrown I call them, so we can keep our recruits here homegrown. So in the state, keep them here working.
And Cochise College is a great partner with all people in Cochise County and beyond, but specifically with the Sheriff's Office and also the county government. And they hosted an election machine event where you could go ahead and see how the machines work. They could do all the explaining. So that's a big one coming up.
Oh, it's a big one. It's been a hot topic. I'm not getting into big detail with it, but it's a hot topic, and rightfully so. People want integrity in their elections. Arizona sheriffs came out with a statement 2 years ago about that when right before I left as Arizona president from the association. And we promote that. Anything else would be a fracture in our democracy. But let me just say this with that was an awareness education. Some people you're not going to convince. Let's just face it. Some people aren't going to believe in it. I mean, they're just set in their ways. But we have to have trust in the leadership to run them. That's where it starts. There's always a human behind every process and every problem. There's usually a human behind it too. But I will say this: we're all entitled to an opinion, just like I am. We're all entitled to vote who we believe is the best candidate, but we're not entitled to break the law. And we're not entitled to cross that line when it comes to somebody that wants to vote or somebody that wants to go to the polls or whatever it may be, or somebody commits a fraud on their ballot. That's crossing the line. So again, those that cross that line into a criminal venue, we will look into it. We will address it immediately. We're not going to sit back on that. And I think that's above board. It's also transparent. It's also keeps our democracy intact.
A lot of what we do at the Sheriff's Office at the moment involves the border, and we've got some stats we're going to throw out in just a minute. But first, let's talk about you testifying about the border often, actually.
Yeah. So a couple of testimonies this week. I did a written testimony which was submitted based on delays and timeliness. I didn't get back to D.C., but they have an optics of Cochise County and the interaction with sheriffs throughout the nation, the hundreds of sheriffs, to include our efforts and programs. So I had the opportunity to submit that. I also had the opportunity to present both to the joint House and Senate here in Arizona on the floor. I was told 90% of the senators and the representatives showed up to that, both Democrats, Republicans. Sheriff Wilmot, myself, Commander Watkins, and Commander Bradshaw all had the opportunity to go up there and present a part of this. And the first thing I always tell people is set the politics aside. Let's look at the facts. Let's look at the non-political facts here. Let's talk about what the reality is. This happened, this didn't happen. And I continue to say it. I mean, whether it's a federal statistic, state statistics, our statistics, together, you put them all together, they're consistent in the fact that they're disturbing. The numbers are disturbing. We have to do a better job. Governor Hobbs, when she did her State of the State here a couple weeks ago, she hit on that really hard. She hit on the fact that this administration and Congress has not done their job. And I commend her for that. It was nice to see that, because this is not a partisan thing anymore. This is a bipartisan problem. It really is, to include America's problem. So we have to stand united on this. We have to support our law enforcement, state, local, and federal. I hit on that really hard, I'll just tell you. And I'm going to keep hitting on that, because law enforcement's been beat up here last several years, and many still like to do that. Well, I'll pose you and debate you all day on that. If a bad cop's out there, we'll get rid of them. I'll be the first to commit you on that. But 99% of the cops I work with, almost 100% in this county, are just admirable and believe in what they're doing. So again, it was an opportunity. I enjoyed it. I thanked them I thanked the state for all their support, because we couldn't do a lot what we're doing in Cochise County without it. I know there was some follow-up meetings for budgetary, and we had a couple meetings before this last week with the budget, trying to sustain our programs here in Cochise County. I talked to the governor about that last month for this year ended, about keeping these budgets intact for us. Because if we lose that, if we lose our state partnership, we're going to be in trouble. We're going to be in trouble. So, because right now the money being used, besides my general fund money, which is pretty much the standard we do every year, it's been outside money to include the state. Very little from the federal government. I'll just throw that out there.
And one of the things that they've assisted in is our joint border center, and that's funding that we've had, I guess, obligated to this particular thing. So we're working on that. Hopefully it'll be up and running soon, and a lot of infrastructure has to be done before anybody can actually get into that. But pretty excited to have that happen.
Yeah, we're doing a soft move in there right now with some of the offices. We're waiting for a lot of furniture. That's really been the holdup. Thanks to county IT and facilities, they've really stepped up to help us over there. Thank you to both those departments. And Rosa, who's our project manager on this one. But yeah, everybody's doing their part to get this up. And we're hoping as soon as we get that furniture in there, we can go full bore. We'll have a grand opening on it. A little bit of announcement. We're going to name that the Oleski Brothers Center. The Oleski Brothers, just a quick overview. Josh Oleski works for the United States Border Patrol, served in our military, Navy, and Marines. His brother Chris Oleski works for us. He's a retired Marine. Both of them have served our country, now serve in our communities here locally here in Cochise County. Both went through harrowing events. Josh was jumped by two illegals, migrants, on a trail here about a year and a half ago. They tried to cut his throat. He fought them off until he got assistance there. And, of course, Chris Oleski, our deputy, has been, we've talked about that many times, is still on the recovery path. He's still not back to work. So we thought it was fitting. I endorse this, that we named the center after those two that have served our country and served our community. So you'll see something on that as we push that forward.
And let's talk now about bookings in the Cochise County Jail.
So the detention bookings that Commander Bradshaw and the team provided me. So this encompasses both calendar year 22 and calendar year 23, so 24-month window. So in the bookings was 2,884 people booked for border crimes. These are just border crimes. Out of that, and this is something I think is really important. Now, the 2,884 people booked, 154 were illegally in the country or foreign-born, because most people think it's flipped. So it leaves, 2,600 people are U.S. citizens come into Cochise County to commit international crime and crimes against America. That's a telling number. That's just a telling number. But I want to break it down a little more on that too. The failure to yield, these are the pursuits that we were talking about just a minute ago. 414 people we got our hands on that went to jail. And this is collective with all the agencies, with the troopers, the police departments, and the sheriff's office. And these aren't immigration holds. These are strictly state crime violations. In September 28th of 2022, not even a full 2 years, but not even a year and a half, the Arizona put a law together that says if you smuggle, it's a Class 2 felony, you smuggle for profit. And that's those coming down here like I just talked about. So in about 15 months, we booked 566 people just for that statute alone here. That shows you the magnitude of the problem, which is indicative of those pursuits. And last, what the cost has been. In 2022 it was $4.3 million. Last year was $5.1 million. It's increased. Total for 2 years was $9.4 million. And the state of Arizona, the governor's office, both under Governor Ducey, Governor Hobbs, and our state legislative folks have been helping us offset that cost. Otherwise, that would be a huge challenge to the citizens, taxpayers of Cochise County. So thank you to the state. Another stat I want to share up, I think is really important, is Post 42. That's the Title 42, Title 42 went away around May, June of 2023. Since that time, we've had 650 state-coordinated buses. I say it, state and county-coordinated buses through our Dan Deshawn, who's our emergency service coordinator, come to Cochise County and pick up street releases by Border Patrol. And that equates to over 30,000 street releases in 6 months. And if it wasn't for those buses, wow. So, and these buses take them to NGOs who process them outside, usually outside the state of Arizona. But again, that just shows you a tip of the magnitude of what we're dealing with down here. And I got to say this, out of those 650 buses taking 30,000 plus people out of here, those are give-ups. Those are people that gave up on the southwest border. And let me just disclaim this. Those are not the ones that gave up in Cochise County. They bust them through an urban area, Pima County. This is the federal government. I said this the other day when I testified. Wisdom. They bring them from an urban area to Cochise County where Border Patrol is taken off the line, processed, and then released here. Tell me the logic behind that. So again, either way, it's challenges that we deal with every day. The money ran out on this. It's done through FEMA, which is federally reimbursed. Pima County found some other money, the NGOs up there, that'll last us, we think, March, maybe April, and then there's no more money. Where that takes Cochise County and these street releases, I don't know yet. That's something we're going to have to address. I know the governor's office is engaged. I'm engaged in that with sheriffs, so we're going to push that forward.
And on the other side of that, so those are the give-ups. On the other side of that, we have people, and you mentioned a moment ago, United States citizens coming here to do criminal activity. So that actually correlates to a significant challenge we have from law enforcement perspectives, but also from our community standpoint of pursuits that are happening, because they just don't want to get caught. They just want their payday. And the most recent one included a mother and her 10-year-old child.
Right. We usually get single male adults being smuggled by the cartels. But 2 nights ago, we had a individual that just moved here from California, but he was smuggling a mother and a 10-year-old. Both entered the country illegally. We spiked that vehicle, I think it was 3 times, coming up Hereford Road, Molson Road, that area. Again, a lot of community, a lot of traffic in those areas. He took off into the community. We found the 10-year-old in the back, stuck in the back. So we ended up getting the individual, the suspect, let me just call it. He's also, besides the new statute for smuggling, felony flight, that's a pursuit one there for you again too with our stats, but also he was charged for child neglect, rightfully so. He put that child in danger. And I say this, and humanitarian is part of what we do, and a lot of people look at this, well, depending on where you look at this, wow, if you believe in open borders, you're not going to agree with me, I can promise you. I don't agree with that. I think we have to have a manageable, secure border with processes that are legal. But I'll say this. If we're not doing what we're doing here in Cochise County, who's protecting that 10-year-old? Who's protecting those migrants? Granted, they came across the border illegally. We'll address it legally. And the rule, actually the federal law, says you come across the border illegally, you're automatically supposed to be expelled. Well, the federal government set that rule aside. But if we enforce the rule of law, we could do this so much better, and we could deter what's coming across. But in the meantime, a 10-year-old can't make that decision, and we have to protect her. So again, I think that's so important. So as you display your emotions and politics, as you hear me talk, don't forget about a 10-year-old that we also need to protect.
And, don't forget about the big sexy that lures in greed. The 17-year-olds that are driving 146 miles an hour through here trying to get away and smuggling people. 17 years old, 16 years old. What is that?
Well, it's just amazing to me. And you look at it, we had over 100 juveniles that had been apprehended. I think the lowest one, from what Commander Watkins was telling me the other day, and was 12 years old. 12 years old driving a car down here with people he has no idea is in the back seat of his car, camouflage, hiding in the back seat, and you got a 12-year-old at the wheel, running from us. Think about that, running from us. But we see it all the time. 14, 15 is a popular age, but mom and dads and grandparents, and know where your children, know where your grandkids are at, because right now a lot of them are coming to Cochise County, and we got to do that together. We do.
And all of the border issues definitely put pressure on the jail. So shout out to the detention officers that work down there. You guys are doing a great job. But also, we've got some relief coming in the near future with maybe a new jail. Well, a new jail's on the way. Tell us where we're at with our jail situation.
Well, we're still pushing aside with the jail. There was a lawsuit. They asked for a stay with this because this is an appeal based on our I hate to say victory is not the word I'm looking for, but the favorable opinion by our Superior Court judge here in Cochise County. So they asked for a stay. The Arizona Appellate Court said no, there's no stay here granted. So the jail district went into effect January 1st. I know there's some question by some of the businesses, and we put some information out on that. But the bottom line is we're going out for some studies now. These studies will help determine the size of the jail, where we put the jail. It's been a big question. Sheriff, where are you going to put the jail? Well, it's not a sheriff's decision. This will be through a study that will determine what's best fit, maybe not for what current times are, but what 10 years are we going to grow, and we will. Where's best suited to put the jail? Can I put it closer between Bisbee and Sierra Vista and maybe close the Sierra Vista jail and reduce that liability, which is I'm very optimistic about that if we could do that. The more jails you run, the more liability you endure. So that's a thought I have in my mind. But again, these experts will come in and do that. So we're going out for that to get that study done. We're going to move this process. I want to do it. I want to do it right. Thanks to Rich Karwashka and his team he's our county administrator down at the county, Kenny Bradshaw, my jail commander, and all those that have put their hand in this to help us do this right. Because at the end of the day, if it's not done right, my reputation lies within that foundation, and I don't want that to happen.
Well, thank you for coming and talking to us today, Sheriff Mark Daniels.
I do have one safety message I've got to throw out there, and this was brought to a citizen yesterday before I sign off here, and that is people in the morning. It's still dark. You go to work at 7, it's still dark. Remember, it's from sun up to sun down, or their designated times. Well, people driving new cars, their headlights automatically come on because they're called driving lights. Something a lot of older cars don't have. So people are driving with driving lights on, but forget to turn their headlights on or driving lights on, then they have no tail lights. Make sure you're activating your lights. And I've stopped so many, especially people in rental cars, where they're not familiar with the car. They forget to check and make sure your tail lights are working. Because so many, especially at nighttime, you come up on them. I mean, they're dangerous. There was one lady called me yesterday and said there was 3 cars going when she was going to work yesterday. So we just that's just a safety message. Make sure if you're driving a car, especially a new one, that it's either on auto, so they come on automatically, or you activate your driving lights. Just because the headlight's on doesn't mean the tail lights are.
And that'll keep you from getting a citation, possibly.
That's true, too. That's true, too.
All right, Carol, who do we have coming in next?
We have Adam Curtis, who's the City of Sierra Vista Public Affairs Officer.
And thank you to SSVEC for sponsoring the show for another year. It's First Watch, brought to you by Sulphur Springs Valley Electric Cooperative.
It's First Watch now.
Hosted by Public Information Officer Carol Kappas and Grady Butler.
On 92.3 KWCD.
And it is once again brought to you by Sulphur Springs Valley Electric Cooperative. They've sponsored us for another year, so thank you to SSVEC. And our next guest in the studio is Adam Curtis with the City of Sierra Vista. He's the Communications Manager. And thanks for coming, because the last 2 weeks we tried to have you on the show and we got froze out, so thank you for coming a third week in a row.
No problem. I've woken up early every Friday, but it's okay.
Well, the reason we want you in is to kind of give us a retrospect of 2023 from the City of Sierra Vista's point of view.
Yeah, so we had a lot going on, as we usually do. I'm going to start kind of chronologically, and we'll see where it goes. But everyone probably knows about Better Bucks by now. It's a voucher program where you can exchange money for vouchers, and then it kind of deals with panhandling, because panhandlers, you can provide them vouchers that actually will go to stuff like food, clothing, that kind of stuff. But that nonprofit that started that, and it was really originally a city initiative, has expanded into Better Work and Better Meals. So Better Work kicked off in January of 2023. That actually puts folks that are experiencing homelessness to work, cleaning up state land and other areas around town. Over the course of the year, through that program, we removed about 42,000 pounds of trash, which is really, really awesome. The other really cool thing is several people were able to secure full-time employment based on direct recommendations through that program, and several more got jobs otherwise through that. So it really is kind of helping them kind of bridge that gap between the issues they're experiencing right now and some meaningful change in their lives, which is really, really awesome to see. Better Meals is helping out in the schools, kind of like Peach's Pantry, to kind of help fill in that gap and ensure kids have food to eat. A lot of kids show up to school not having eaten breakfast. It's really sad, and it's hard to learn when you have an empty stomach. So to kind of help assist with that and assist with kind of the bills that rack up at schools where students can't pay for their lunches. That program was started late this year and has, I think, donated about $2,500 some dollars since it began in October. So lots of good progress on that front, and a ton of credit to Scott Borgstadt, who works with RPD and kind of spearheaded this whole initiative, and to his whole board that has been running Better Bucks and the entire complement of Better Bucks, Better Work, and Better Meals programs now.
Is there a way that people that are listening right now can donate to those programs?
I would recommend look up Better Bucks Sierra Vista on Facebook, and that'll link to their website and all that kind of stuff. And you can message them directly. You can learn more about what they do, and I'm sure find a way to support them and help out and that kind of stuff too.
Excellent.
So one of the biggest things for us, it was actually part of this energy savings initiative that we partnered with Schneider Electric on, but it was the most visible part of that was the Veterans Memorial Park Sports Complex. So that's that fancy new football field and stadium seating and everything that you see over by the Rothery Center and the Sierra Vista Unified School District Governing Board Administrative Building there. That football field is state-of-the-art. It is beautiful. They actually added on some fancy RGB lights for free because we worked with Schneider for two of these initiatives now, and they've done a lot of work with us, and they kind of added that to surprise us. So when we had that grand opening event in June at night, we put on this light show too, and it was just super cool. But one really cool thing that is just a kind of a sidebar is that field is dedicated to Keith Hampton, who was a very big deal in the football community here, and his son actually led the Berean Academy football team to a state championship this year, and they played a lot of their games on that field. So it was just a fairy tale kind of story. It was just really, really neat. But aside from the football field and stuff, we did a lot of other work as part of that overall energy initiative. That includes a smart irrigation system citywide, filter and pump upgrades at the Cove, a roof replacement at City Hall, EV charging stations in several locations, solar-covered parking at 3 city facilities, and miscellaneous other small things. But long story short, we're generating more than 1 million kilowatt hours of energy savings each year just through the solar, and we're saving around 6 million gallons of water per year through those Cove improvements and through that smart irrigation system primarily. So these were some big maintenance priorities and technology updates that we really needed, and it also kind of helps us pay off the cost over time with some of those energy savings and other elements. And water savings is hugely important to us as a community overall, because we always have to balance the needs of Fort Huachuca, our community, and the San Pedro River. And in line with that, I'm now breaking my chronological format officially because this happened later in the year. But in November, we were awarded, basically the City of Sierra Vista, Fort Huachuca, U.S. Bureau of Land Management, and Cochise County were all awarded together the America the Beautiful Challenge Grant, and that's for the SPRINCA, the San Pedro the San Pedro Riparian National Conservation Area, and that's over $1 million that will help us with adaptive management of water resources to protect that area, which is super important as we just try to, continue to thrive as a community. We also need to make sure that we protect the river and the endangered species that call the river home. So that will help us do that with our partners, and we really appreciate having a more formal partnership between those organizations and a really concerted effort to manage that area. So that is actually a really big deal too. So some other stuff we've been up to, we're always working on the West End. There's kind of ongoing initiatives to revitalize that area. The West Sierra Vista Partnership Program is a matching grant program we have in that area, and it's continued to do really well. Other businesses have been jumping on board. Tell Mama is open this year. That's a good example of a small business that took advantage of that matching grant program to do some really nice improvements to that space. And it's also a good example of, the kind of business we love to see in that area that's more kind of entertainment geared, kind of facilitating that downtown atmosphere as we kind of, do the streetscape work along Fry that was completed in the last couple of years. We're now going to be taking that streetscape project along Garden, where there's been a lot of investment, including by the Sheriff's Office. You guys have a building up at the north end of Garden.
Yes, we do, yes.
Yep. And Cast is planning to move over there, but there's also Tombstone Brewery. There's a really nice dental office. There's been a lot of really nice updates to facilities over there. And a lot of those business owners actually kind of came into that area, invested in the area, knowing our vision for that and that we want to expand that streetscape along Garden. So we ended up holding off on plans on Garden for 1 year. We had hoped to be underway already, but we applied for a very big federal grant. It's called the RAISE grant. And while we didn't get it last year, we were notified that we were a project of merit and urged to reapply this year. So that combined with some budget considerations and costs coming in a little higher than anticipated, we're spending this year to make that a top budget priority. So if we don't get the grant, we can still move forward this summer or fall. If we do get the grant, that will cover Garden and then also potentially cover Fry, extending that streetscape east to 7th Street. So if we get that grant, that would be huge, but even if we don't, we'll be trying to move forward with that Garden Avenue streetscape project in the late summer, early fall of 2024. So lots of stuff still going on in the West End. That matching grant program I talked about we've given out more than $313,000 to 24 businesses since 2018, which have in turn invested over $4.4 million of private money into the West End. So it feels like progress is incremental and slow sometimes, but there's been major work done in the last several years over there, and we're continuing to push that momentum forward. So switching over to the public safety arena, Cochise College partnered with us on a driving track on a piece of city land over by Fire Station 3 off of Julio Cesare. And that's really, really awesome because it helps our local public safety agencies, including SVPD, the Sheriff's Office, the Southeast Arizona Law Enforcement Training Academy, do their driver's training and their tactical training stuff over in that area. So it's great having a dedicated local space for that, and they get the top priority for use of that facility. But it is also open to the public and can be rented out, by car groups and that kind of stuff as well. So that's been really awesome. Cochise College has also, made a lot of other progress with its kind of support of public safety training. They broke ground on a shooting range and an inside shooting range. They have a virtual reality component for medic training and EMS and that stuff. So they're making a lot of progress on that, and have actually are bringing the police academy and stuff over to the Sierra Vista campus, which is really awesome, and we love seeing that as well. So thanks so much to the support of Cochise College for that. It's been an interesting year for Sierra Vista Police Department in general, and I think it's just kind of worth noting that this summer we celebrated the promotions of about 13 people all at once, and that included, chief, deputy chief, on down. So Chief Adam Thrasher retired this year, and Deputy Chief John Cosmiter also retired. So that's a loss of a couple great guys and a lot of really good experience. So Chris Heiser is our new police chief, and he's been with the agency over 20 years. Deputy Chief is Lawrence Boutte, who's been there for a long time as well. But it's been a lot of fun to see Chris put his own stamp on the agency. He's part of the culture, and he loves the agency, but he's also cultivating this whole new batch of leaders too. So that's been a lot of fun. So a little teaser, probably next week we'll be releasing our first podcast of the year, and it'll be with Chief Heiser. So hopefully we'll go in depth onto that story. He's a really interesting guy to talk to, so I'm really looking forward to that interview and looking forward to kind of detailing everything going on over at SVPD. Aside from that, I just want to let people know that we know the State Route 90 in front of Target and Fry's is in really bad shape, and that whole area is in really bad shape as you head north along the bypass. We have been urging ADOT and the state to make this a priority for years, and it's been in the budget. They've expanded the project since it was originally in the budget, which delayed it. But the good news is it's moving forward this year. We're expecting construction to begin very soon, February, March kind of time period. It will extend into 2025 because they're not just dealing with that patch. It goes east to Moson, north like towards the Whetstone area, and I can't tell you where they're going to start because I don't know.
That was going to be my question. Please tell me they're going to start there.
I saw Carol grab the mic, and
yes.
That's the same question we hear all the time, and we don't control where they start, and we haven't been notified where they start. I imagine it will probably be at either end. It probably won't be right where we would love them to get the work done. We have urged them to do spot repairs as possible in the meantime because there are some nasty potholes out there. We as a city cannot fill those. We do not own the roadway, and there is no form we can fill out to get reimbursed for that or even be permitted to do that, which is really frustrating, and we are also frustrated with the state of that road. But it is a priority, and the state is actually moving forward with that. So that is some very good news for this coming year. Aside from that, we hosted El Tour de Zona for the second time. The third time is coming up in March. That's a big cycling event that brings in several hundred cyclists. More than 500 is expected this year. To 3 or 4 nights, spend 3 or 4 nights in Sierra Vista as they ride around our area, which is a really, really good event to be able to kind of boost our local economy. There aren't a lot of other events going on in that time period, so it just has worked out really well, and we look forward to that again this year. As part of that, Zona in the Park is a free event, so I think it's around the third weekend in March, but we'll be putting out a lot more information about that soon. So there'll be free entertainment in the park, good bands, good food, that kind of stuff. So please, be part of that. Welcome the cyclists. We know it can be a little annoying to have traffic restrictions or that kind of stuff, but it is really good for our businesses because they spend money here, and also exposes our community to folks from more than 30 states. I mean, they travel from all over the place. And we also did the ice rink for the second year. We just wrapped that up recently. It went pretty well. We did have a park breakdown, but the vendor let us extend the hours, which was a little bit helpful. And we had an expanded size. The ice rink was really cool, so we hope to do that again this year. And finally, on my list of things from last year, the Henry F. Hauser Museum received a couple things: a $100,000 donation from the Sierra Vista Historical Society and a $65,000 grant from the Tohono O'odham Nation. And now they are working on a renovation of the museum, basically expanding, updating technology, and adding a children's discovery room, which is really cool. So that's underway now in 2024, which might transition into the question Grady's thinking of asking me. I think.
You can see it coming, because that was a good retrospect on 2023, and you kind of gave us some peeks into 2024. But do you have anything that you want to highlight that's coming up this next year?
Yeah, absolutely. So folks probably remember Roadrunner Park. We put out initial call for input on design ideas for that park. That's over off St. Andrews Drive at Garden Canyon Linear Wash, just south of that wash. That area of town doesn't have a big community park, and we've wanted to do one there for a long time. So we got tons of input on that, which was fantastic, and we are working on it. So we have we're hiring a design group that's working on concepts. We expect those to go to the council this year, and we'll get some direction from them. And we'll also have a component of public input on those final design ideas before we move forward with the getting the final design locked in, and then hopefully getting that park constructed. So design will be basically completed this year, we anticipate. Construction will be the next thing to figure out. But that's a major community park that a lot of people are really interested in. I did mention Garden Avenue, so we do think Garden Avenue streetscape should get underway, late summer, early fall. and that's a very major project for us. One of the cool new things that we're adding this year is a Hummingbird Month. So we're going to declare August as Hummingbird Month in and for the city of Sierra Vista. We are officially the hummingbird capital of Arizona, and August is a great time to see hummingbirds because of the migration. And that's also when Southwest Wings host their Birding and Nature Festival, their main one. So we're partnering with them and the Southeastern Arizona Bird Observatory to kind of put together, different events and activities. The city's directly going to run a lot of different events and activities that month, and we have some other ideas in the works that'll be exciting. I can't go into too many details yet, but just know that August will be Hummingbird Month, and there'll be a lot of stuff going on, and we're really excited to kick that off this year. And kind of just help bring attention to the incredible biodiversity we have down here, not just with hummingbirds, but with all kinds of birds and mammals and even butterflies. We have tons of butterflies and a variety of species, kind of uncommon to see that big a variety. So if you've never gone to check out our local birding hotspots, like along the San Pedro River, up in Ramsey Canyon, you absolutely should. We're in a really unique, special place, and we're going to celebrate that a little bit more this year. So those are kind of the top things on my mind coming up this year. But we always have a lot more in the works. I know Economic Development is working on the Moonshot Pitch Competition, so check out our City of Sierra Vista Facebook page. We posted information on that just recently, and we've added a student component of that. So if you have this pie-in-the-sky moonshot business idea, or you just have a business that you're working on that you'd like to expand, it might fit into the statewide competition, and you could earn some prize money and support to help your dream make it real and expand your business or start a new business, that kind of thing. So please do check that out, and follow us on all the social medias and get our email newsletter because that'll just help you keep track of all the city news throughout 2024 and beyond.
And you mentioned that you got a podcast coming up. Go ahead and tell us where to find the City of Sierra Vista podcast.
Yeah, so that is called Let's Talk Sierra Vista, and you can find it on most major podcasting apps. If you struggle to find it, just look it up on sierravistaaz.gov. You can also play it directly from the website. I had to put it on a hiatus last year. I did get promoted, but it took me a while to replace myself and get fully staffed. So we are bringing it back this year and kicking it off probably next Friday is kind of tentatively when we're going to launch our first episode of the year. And again, that'll be with SVBD Chief Chris Heiser, and it's going to be a really good interview. I just talked to him about it yesterday. So Let's Talk Sierra Vista. Find it on your podcast app.
And welcome, Elizabeth, the new you.
Yeah, so Elizabeth Rozak is the new Public Information Officer for the City of Sierra Vista. She's been doing an awesome job. I am so excited to be fully staffed and, getting running in 2024.
Well, we thank you for coming and talking to us today and catching us up with the City of Sierra Vista.
Yep, it's always a great time. Thank you.
That's Adam Curtis, Communications Manager with the City of Sierra Vista. First Watch on KWCD Country is brought to you by Sulphur Springs Valley Electric Cooperative.